Welcome back. We're here to talk about Saturday's Premier League match between Swansea and Arsenal. Pascal, the Gunners, they moved top of the table last weekend, but we've got to start in midweek. Really disappointing defeat to Sheffield Wednesday.
Really was. They'd won four in a row going into that game, going to a championship team. I mean, Wednesday, they've been pretty good of late in the championship, but for Arsenal to lose 3-0 there, worst defeat to lower league opposition since 1959. So a really, really poor result, and conceding three, not scoring any. There was some youngsters in the lineup. Wenger always does that in the League Cup, but in terms of the back, the back line here, Petr in goal, first choice goalkeeper who's been praised in recent weeks for his performances. Debussy, Chambers, Mertesacker, Gibbs. He's got. They're all first, not necessarily his first choice players, but they're all players who are capable of playing first team football in the Premier League, good quality football, and for them to concede letting three goals the way they did, and no goals at the other end. Further forward, Giroud started up front, but then obviously there's not just the defeat, they had injuries as well. Oxlade-Chamberlain went off early, then Walcott came on to replace him, then he had to go off. Within a few minutes, so real blows there. It's a lot of pressure on Giroud now up there, and had Flamini in the middle. You would have thought that he's been in the game a long time. His sort of leadership in the middle might have helped, but didn't really. And you have to credit Wednesday really. It was a fantastic atmosphere there at Hillsborough, and the first goal they scored, it was such a brilliant move. They worked it down the left, great cross cut back it was, and Ross Wallace with a good finish, and then after that, the other two goals they conceded both coming from sort of set piece situations. Wenger will be so angry at that because like I mentioned, he had quite a senior defence out there. A lot of players who have played lots of Premier League football. For them to concede the goals they did, really poor result. You saw Chelsea go out last night as well, and Arsenal, they're not going to be able to win that cup now, which obviously they would have fancied winning, and it's just such a blow for them to lose the way they did because, like I said, they'd won four in a row before that. They beat Bayern, last week midweek, and now they go and lose to Sheffield Wednesday. So a bit of a crazy result, and they'll certainly want to bounce back from that here.
And it came off the back of a good win against Everton. Everton never the easiest team to play. They win 2-1 on that one. Go level on points at the top of the table. Giroud, another goal for him. Koscielny getting in the goal, and the only goal they conceded was a big deflection from Ross Barkley, which very fortunate for Everton to get that goal. So a good win in the league, and they're in very good form in the league. I think they moved top of the table for the first time in 20 months with that result against Everton, and then obviously Man City's draw in the Manchester derby brought them back level on points, so they're going to this game of this weekend second. But I think the recent wins they've had, you mentioned the Bayern one there, huge victory, 3-0 against Manchester United, even the win against Everton last weekend. I think there's signs that they perhaps getting that mental toughness that has been lacking for them in recent seasons, and probably is the only thing that's prevented them from putting in a really big title challenge in recent years, because they've got the ability. They always go through a spell every season when they looked unbeatable. It looked like they were going through one of those spells there until the Sheffield Wednesday result obviously has halted their momentum. But as you mentioned, should be looking for a big response now. They've won 6 of their last 7, so Wenger will be hoping that's an anomaly of a result, and you suspect it is because they've been in such good form in the league that everyone was talking about them as perhaps the biggest challengers now to Man City for the title.
Yeah, you talked about the mental toughness there, and that will certainly be really put to the test after that defeat to Wednesday last night. They go to Swansea here, which Swansea had a decent win last week against Villa, and this isn't the easiest game. Swansea usually fairly solid at home, and then their 2 games after that they got that reverse tie against Bayern Munich. It was huge that they did beat Bayern at home because they needed to win at least one of these 2 games against them, and now that they have won that, there's less pressure going into this one. If they'd been beaten at the Emirates, there would have been so much pressure going into the one at the Allianz Arena. So not quite so much pressure for the Bayern one, but then after that they've got the North London derby against Spurs in the Premier League, so that's another big game. 3 big games coming up for them, and like you talked about the mental toughness, it will really be tested in these next 3 because you talk about the league position, they are level there with City at the top. It's very close up there. You've got West Ham and Man U just behind, so with the games coming up, tough games coming up, you've got the injuries suffered last night. Oxlade-Chamberlain, Walcott, we're not quite sure how serious they are yet, so pressure is going to be on Giroud up there. We know they've already not got Welbeck, Wilshere, Ramsey's out as well, so it's just one of those things at the moment where Arsenal, they always seem to get this injury spell. It's usually sort of around February time when they seem to just completely crumble. Maybe it's just a bit earlier this year, but it's a big game for this now because of just that defeat in midweek Sheffield Wednesday. They have to bounce back.
Yeah, and those injuries, they always shine a light on Wenger's transfer business. The previous summer there was big talk about he should have brought in a striker. Giroud and Walcott not good enough. They've both been in very good form so far this season when we praised them in recent weeks, but now you look at it, as you mentioned, we don't know how long Walcott's out for, but if it's a significant spell on the sidelines, if Giroud then gets injured, they could be in a bit of trouble up front. But looking ahead to this game, they're coming up against a Swansea side who they'll be a bit more confident now. They went through a torrid run of form since August, a 6-game winless streak in all competitions, and then ended that with a 2-1 victory over Aston Villa. A very good victory as well. You would expect them to beat Villa in such poor form, but it felt like a must-win game at Villa. That perhaps made Villa a bit more tense, but the desire was certainly there, certainly from Sherwood, because he knew probably deep down that if he didn't win that game, he would lose his job, and that's how it turned out in the end. They showed good character in the end to come back from behind. Obviously, Ayew got the goal for Aston Villa, and then his brother got the winning goal later. Sigurdsson with a fantastic free kick. We know he's got that quality to come up with something special. So an important win, one they perhaps would have expected considering Villa's form, but a massive victory, and to finally get back to winning ways, perhaps they can start to climb the table again after what was such a good start to the season.
Yeah, because there was, obviously all the talk going into that game was mainly about Sherwood and whether he'd lose his job, but there was sort of murmurings of the way Swansea are playing that Monk might be on the brink, and then he just, he was obviously sort of posed that a sort of question along those lines, and he completely rubbished those rumours. And certainly any talk of Monk leaving, say if Swansea had lost that game, it would have been obviously a really bad defeat, and any talk of maybe Monk going would be really silly, because last season their highest ever points finish in the Premier League, and certainly they've had a couple of players going off form in sort of September, October, but that was a decent win for them. Good to come back like they did, and then now return to the Liberty Stadium. They've only lost once at home this season. That was in their last game against Stoke. That Monday night game where they were disappointing in that game, and they actually haven't won in 3 at home either since that victory over Manchester United at the end of August. So a few draws. They're quite solid at home, but they really need a performance to spring them back to life at home, and a game against, say if they beat an inform in the league inform Arsenal, that would certainly be a big result for them to sort of rejuvenate their season, because after August, like you said, they were right there near the top of the table, and they're now dropped to 12th, and they just need something to sort of pick them up again.
So taking points off Chelsea and Manchester United already this season, see them doing it to Arsenal as well?
I don't know. I think Arsenal, I think it was a real blip in midweek. I mean, it is a blow to lose. You say if Walcott misses this, Oxlade-Chamberlain misses this, but they'll have Sanchez back for this game. He's such a key player for them. Giroud has been. He was quiet against Wednesday. He had no luck against the Wednesday defence, but you think he'd probably be back on form for this one, and I think Arsenal come through this one 2-0.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I can see Arsenal getting a decent win. Swansea, as we mentioned, they've got good results against the big teams so far, but Arsenal in the Premier League, if they're back to the best, especially if they need a response ahead of the Bayern and Tottenham games, 2 huge games for the club, I can see them running out 2-0 winners as well. So both going for Arsenal by 2 goals in this one. Thanks for joining us.